Karen stole my rent money. Can you imagine that? She took the cash I had scraped together. Every dollar of it. Meant for my landlord, and blew it on Disneyland tickets for herself. Who does that? I'll never forget the moment I found out. It was a warm afternoon. Sun blazing through my window, and I'd just gotten off a double shift at work. My feet ached. My shirt smelled like fryer oil, and all I could think about was finally paying rent so I wouldn't get that dreaded late fee notice. I reached into the drawer where I kept the envelope. Neatly counted. Crisp bills. Over $1,000 saved from weeks of grinding. But when I opened it, empty. Just air. My stomach dropped. I swear I heard the blood rush in my ears. I tore through the drawer like a maniac, hoping maybe, just maybe, I'd misplaced it. But no. Gone. Panic set in. I sat there on the floor, drawer half pulled out, my hands shaking. Where could it have gone? Who could have taken it? The only person who had been in my apartment recently was my so-called friend, Karen. She had this habit of dropping by uninvited, always poking around, asking questions that didn't feel like small talk but like prying. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone's got quirks, right? But now, oh no, no, no. Something inside me twisted. I picked up my phone and scrolled through messages with her. And there it was. The clue that tied it all together. Just yesterday she texted me a picture of her grinning with some Disneyland brochure, bragging about how sometimes you just gotta treat yourself to the magic of Disney. I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. Treat yourself. With my rent money. My first instinct was to storm over. But I paused. What if I was wrong? What if I'd somehow lost it myself? My mind spun in circles. I paced the room, muttering under my breath, fists clenching. No. She did it. I know she did it. I decided to test her. I sent a casual text. Hey. Weird thing. My rent money disappeared. You didn't see anything last time you came over, did you? I held my breath as the 3 dots popped up. And then her reply came, oh no. That sucks. Maybe you misplaced it. You can be kinda scatterbrained. LOL. Scatterbrained. The nerve. My whole body flushed with rage. That little LOL felt like a dagger. She was mocking me. Mocking the fact she had just sabotaged my life. For a few days, I tried to scrape by. I borrowed from a coworker. Begged for an extension from my landlord. Swallowed my pride while hearing his sigh of disappointment. Meanwhile, Karen was posting pictures online. Her and her kids at Disneyland. Mickey ears on their heads. Fireworks exploding in the sky. And every single smile in those photos. Paid for with my sweat. But life has a way of twisting back on people like her. And oh, did karma come fast. 1 week later, Karen showed up at my place. Knocking like she owned it. I opened the door and there she was. Sunburned. Frazzled. Holding 2 Mickey-shaped balloons that had already half deflated. Her voice cracked. Hey. So, funny thing. I'm short on my electric bill. Do you think you could spot me some cash? I almost laughed in her face. The audacity. After what she did. Now she wanted me to bail her out. I played it cool though. Biting the inside of my cheek so I wouldn't explode. Sorry, Karen. I said slowly. But I'm kinda scatterbrained. Remember, can't seem to find any extra cash lying around. The look on her face. Priceless. She sputtered, shifting from foot to foot. Well, you don't have to be rude. I just thought we were friends. 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 My chest heaved with a bitter laugh. If friendship meant stealing someone's roof from over their head, then she was the best friend money could buy. Literally. I closed the door in her face. But that wasn't the end. Oh no. A few days later, I got a knock on the door again. But this time it was my landlord. His face grim. His voice clipped. You're late. Again. I tried to explain, but words fell flat. He didn't care about Disneyland. About betrayal. About Karen. He wanted his money, and I was cornered. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I confronted her. Full on. No more games. I marched to her house. The second she opened the door, I pushed past her. Where is it, Karen? I snapped. Where's my rent money? She gasped like I was the criminal, clutching her pearls. Literally. Excuse me. How dare you? She put on quite the performance. Crocodile tears, trembling hands. But her kids, bless their innocent little mouths, spilled the truth. Mom, are you talking about the money you used for Disneyland? The room froze. Karen's face went pale, then blotchy red. She barked at them to go to their rooms. But it was too late. The truth was out. I stood there, shaking, voice raw. Do you have any idea what you've done? I almost got evicted. You think your little vacation was worth destroying my life? She muttered excuses. How she meant to pay it back. How things got tight. How the kids deserved something special. Couldn't believe it. She actually thought Disneyland was more important than me having a roof over my head. My voice broke as I said, "You're disgusting, Karen." And I walked out. But the story didn't end there. The universe wasn't done with her yet. Weeks later, gossip spread through the neighborhood. Turns out Karen had been pulling tricks like this on others too. Borrowing money she never paid back. Losing borrowed items. Sweet-talking her way out of responsibility. But stealing my rent. That was the straw that broke everything. Word spread fast. People avoided her. Whispered behind her back. Friends stopped answering her calls. She became a pariah in her own bubble of lies. Then came the final blow. I was at the leasing office one afternoon when I overheard her name being mentioned. Apparently, she'd fallen behind on her own rent. Too busy funding trips and nonsense to keep up with reality. And when the eviction notice came, it was brutal. She stood outside, screaming at the property manager, waving papers, demanding second chances. But nobody listened. Nobody cared. I watched from across the street, arms crossed, a sigh escaping me. I didn't cheer. I didn't mock. I just felt the weight of bitter justice. It was done. The same fate she almost caused me had now landed squarely on her shoulders. And you know what the kicker was? Those Disneyland tickets she flaunted. Non-refundable. The happiest place on earth had become the nail in her coffin. Sometimes karma doesn't whisper. It roars. And when it came for Karen, it left nothing but ashes. So if you've ever been screwed over by someone who thought they could get away with it, trust me, life has a way of circling back. And when it does, it hits harder than you could ever imagine. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next wild ride. They said it was just a misunderstanding. But I watched the clock tick while my father gasped for air on the porch. His lips turning blue and the ambulance sat at the gate, trapped by 2 matching SUVs and 2 smug sisters with folded arms. One of them even smiled at me and said, "Maybe you shouldn't have built so close to the private entrance. You ever feel that slow burn in your chest, the one that starts behind your ribs and rises like fire behind your eyes?" I swear, for a moment the world got quiet. No birds, no cars. Just my heartbeat slamming in my ears and my dad's faint wheezing behind me. Oh my God, he's not gonna make it if they don't move. I ran down the gravel drive, waving my arms like a madman at the ambulance stuck behind the Karen's blockade. "He's in distress," I shouted. "Move your cars." But Lisa and Trina, those were their names, just stood there like 2 blonde statues in tennis skirts. Agawahoyoch, entitled, unshakable. Lisa, the older one, sipped iced coffee through a metal straw and said without blinking, "This isn't a public road. He should have used the back gate like everyone else." What? My hands clenched into fists. There is no back gate. He's dying. Still nothing. The EMT inside the ambulance got out and jogged up, defibrillator in hand, panting from the heat. "Sir, we need clear access now. Can you get them to move?" I turned back to the Karen sisters. "You're blocking emergency services. That's a federal crime." But Trina only crossed her arms. "We have HOA rights. The board ruled no heavy vehicles through the east side. You should have filed a waiver." "Filed a waiver? For a dying man?" That's when my neighbor Kyle came out, thank God for him, holding his phone. Face flushed. "I called the sheriff," he said, eyes darting. And, I blinked. "You did what?" He nodded. "And I might have said you still have contacts in DC, you know, just to get the ball rolling faster." I looked at him like he was crazy. But then the radio crackled in the ambulance, and Lisa finally dropped her smug grin. "Wait, what did he say?" But it was too late. 10 minutes later, 10 agonizing minutes of trying to fan my dad's face and keep him conscious, we heard the low hum of engines. Then the gravel trembled. Boom, boom. Big tires on blacktop. A black SUV with flashing blue lights pulled up beside the ambulance, followed by 2 armored vehicles. SWAT. Full gear. Tactical vests. Helmets. Rifles across their chests. The Karen sisters? Their faces drained of color like a printer running out of ink. Wait, Lisa stammered. "We didn't know. This isn't that serious. You're obstructing an emergency response." One of the officers snapped. "Move your vehicles. Now." "But this is private," Trina started. But the officer raised a hand. "Mom, if you don't comply in the next 30 seconds, this becomes a criminal offense under state and federal law." You could have heard a pin drop. Then keys fumbled. The SUVs roared to life. I swear, Trina almost drove into Lisa's bumper trying to move fast enough. As soon as the path was cleared, the EMTs shot through like lightning. They reached my dad, got the oxygen mask on him, and within 2 minutes he was stable enough for transport. I followed in Kyle's truck, still shaking, still trying to understand what had just happened. But the best part? That came 2 hours later. I was sitting in the hospital hallway, phone in hand, numb but grateful. Dad was going to make it. He had a severe allergic reaction, probably a bee sting, and if it had been delayed 5 more minutes, he might have coded. That's when my phone lit up with a call from a local news reporter. "Mr. Daniels? I heard about the incident from a sheriff's deputy. Would you mind giving a statement? There's dashcam footage. SWAT confirmed this may be used in court. But it wasn't until the next day that the full karma really hit. A video went viral recorded from a neighbor's Ring cam, showing the moment the Karens were forced to move. Their trembling hands, Lisa dropping her sunglasses, Trina crying. The caption, "HOA Karens block EMT, then SWAT shows up." Boom! 1 million views in 2 days. The HOA tried to issue a formal apology on behalf of the sisters, but it was too late. County officials opened an investigation. Turns out, that stretch of road had actually been marked as an emergency access lane 10 years ago, but Lisa's husband had it paved over and never registered the change. Meaning, their whole private road excuse was built on a lie. And the cherry on top, Lisa worked in real estate. Her license was suspended within a week for public obstruction and endangerment. Trina? She was the VP of the HOA, not anymore. A surprise vote was held 2 nights after the incident. Nearly the whole neighborhood showed UPAN. She was unanimously removed. But get this, she tried to sue me. Yup, claimed emotional distress, public defamation, and even accused me of weaponizing the legal system. I just stared at the papers, laughed, and sent them to my lawyer. Want to guess how that went? Let's just say, SWAT officers make very convincing witnesses in court. You want the final twist? Trina's husband, quiet guy, never said much, filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Cited irreconcilable public humiliation. Boom. Twist drop. Karma delivered. And every now and then, I walk by that east road where it all happened. It's still got the faint tire marks from those armored trucks. The HOA tried to scrub them clean. But some things, they leave a permanent mark. After the lawsuits were tossed out, public nuisance, obstruction, and one hilariously desperate claim that I had intimidated them by involving law enforcement. Trina, and Lisa disappeared from the HOA spotlight. Lisa tried to host a community brunch a month later, but only 2 people showed up. One elderly neighbor who thought it was a garage sale, and a teenager who wanted to film her for TikTok. Trina, meanwhile, went radio silent until someone spotted her working the front desk at a nearby fitness center. A far cry from her HOA throne. The community changed after that. People became less afraid to speak up. One guy finally planted tomatoes in his front yard despite Trina's years of threatening aesthetic violations. A family down the block built a wheelchair ramp for their son, something Trina had previously blocked for curb appeal. And me? I got a handwritten note from a woman 2 streets over that simply said, "Thank you for standing your ground. My dad passed last year because help came late. You did what I couldn't." I kept that letter. My dad's recovering well now. Still grumbles about the food at the rehab center, but he's back to breathing steady, and he'll be home by next month. He made me promise we'd install a big red emergency call button at the front gate, something visible, something undeniable. I agreed, and the HOA can't say a word about it now. Not after county officials slapped them with mandatory access compliance laws and fined them for the entire incident. Funny how fast Karen power evaporates when faced with a lawsuit and a SWAT team. You want the best part, though? Lisa's viral moment made it onto a national talk show under the segment Entitlement Gone Wrong. Her frozen expression as the officer told her to move is now a meme. Caption: "When the lawsuit backfires and the SWAT says hi, every time I see it online, I can't help but smirk." So if you're dealing with an HOA nightmare or a neighbor who thinks they're the law, remember this. Karma moves quiet, but it hits hard. And sometimes it wears tactical boots. Thanks for listening to my story. If you want more wild real-life stories of karma, lawsuits, and HOA justice, make sure to subscribe to the channel because this suburban battlefield is just getting started. The first thing you need to know is this: Karen didn't just cut in line. She bulldozed her way past a crowd of exhausted parents and kids, shoved herself right up to the velvet ropes, and then sneered at a young boy holding his mother's hand. "Oh please, kids don't need special treatment. Step aside, brat." The words stung the air like a slap. I swear the entire crowd gasped at once. It was one of those moments when the sound of shock rolls through like a wave. You could feel the energy shift, the tension sharpen. Even the boy froze, blinking up at her with wide, glassy eyes. His mother squeezed his hand tighter, clearly trying to hold her ground. But Karen, she didn't stop. She actually laughed. Who laughs at a child like that? Who thinks humiliation is funny? The line was long, hours long, stretching through the atrium of the convention center. People were hot, tired, restless. Every single person there had been waiting for the same thing: a once-in-a-lifetime meet and greet with a world-famous performer. And this woman just decided rules weren't for her. "Excuse me, ma'am," the mother said softly, her voice tight, a polite tremor hiding anger. "We've been waiting here for 2 hours. Could you please step back?" Karen whipped around, hand on her hip, her sunglasses perched like armor. "Oh, I'm not the one with a sticky-fingered brat clinging to me. Do you want this line to take longer? Because I'll make it longer." The crowd bristled. Murmurs rose like low thunder. Someone coughed sharply. Another muttered, "Unbelievable." But no one stepped in. Not yet. Everyone was holding their breath. Then came the moment. The boy, maybe 8 years old, looked up at Karen with this innocent, bewildered face. His voice barely more than a whisper. "I just wanted to see him too." Karen barked a laugh so sharp it cut the air. "Then cry about it somewhere else. Life isn't fair, kid." Oh, that did it. You could hear the gasp this time. Loud and angry. Mothers shook their heads. Fathers squared their shoulders, and even teens holding merch bags shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't just rudeness anymore. It was cruelty. And then, like it was choreographed by fate itself, 2 security guards turned the corner. Big, uniformed, No-nonsense men with radios clipped to their shoulders. The crowd parted instinctively, murmuring, pointing. Karen, oblivious, tossed her hair. Finally, security. Someone who understands VIPs like me. I don't need to wait with peasants. She actually waved them over. Waved. I almost laughed right then. But I didn't want to miss what happened next. The guards exchanged one look. Then approached. The taller one. Voice calm but edged with authority. Asked, "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" Karen puffed up like a balloon. Yes. This ridiculous line is full of entitled parents and their whiny children. I'm the only one here with any class and I should be escorted inside immediately. I don't pay good money to stand around like cattle. The crowd started buzzing. Someone hissed, "What nerve?" Another muttered, "She's gonna regret that." You could feel it. Everyone silently rooting for karma to strike. The mother of the boy stayed quiet, but her hand trembled where it clutched his shoulder. The boy himself just stared up at the guards with this wide-eyed mix of hope and fear. He didn't understand power games. Not yet. He just wanted fairness. And oh, he got it. The guard's eyes flicked to the boy. He crouched slightly, lowering his voice so it was steady and kind. "Hey, buddy, what's your name?" The boy swallowed, then whispered, "Eli." "Eli? Well, Eli, I think we've got something special for you today." Karen blinked, confusion cracking her smug mask. What are you doing talking to him? I'm the one who... The guard ignored her, speaking into his radio. "Dispatch. Confirm we can grant VIP clearance for guest Eli and guardian." The other guard nodded, stepping aside to open the velvet rope. The crowd actually gasped in unison, then erupted into clapping. Clapping. Karen's jaw dropped. What? You can't just... He's just some random kid. I'm the one who deserves this." The guard stood tall now, looking her dead in the eye. His voice was steel. "Ma'am, you just mocked a child. We don't tolerate harassment. You're done here." Her face twisted, red blotches blooming across her cheeks. "You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am?" The mother exhaled shakily, pulling Eli through the open rope as the guards ushered them toward the VIP entrance. The boy's face lit up like the 4th of July, eyes shining, lips trembling in a smile too big for his face. The crowd cheered louder, a wave of joy sweeping through. It was vindication, pure and sweet. Karen, meanwhile, shrieked. She clawed at the air like she could grab her status back. "This is discrimination. This is abuse. I will sue all of you." The shorter guard gestured firmly. "Ma'am, you need to leave the premises now." And then, the bitter twist. The performer himself appeared at the far end of the corridor. The star everyone had come to see, stepping out with an entourage, ready to greet the VIP guests. Eli froze in awe, his little hands shaking. The performer spotted him immediately. Maybe it was the security, maybe it was fate, but his smile spread wide. He knelt down, arms open, and Eli just ran. The hug was pure magic, the kind you never forget. Cameras flashed, parents cried, people cheered, and Karen screamed. She lunged forward, only to be grabbed, literally lifted, by the guards. She kicked and flailed, her sunglasses flying across the marble floor, her voice cracking into hysterics. "That should be me. I deserve it. Not him." The sound of her shriek collided with the sound of applause. It was almost musical, chaos and triumph blending together. Her heels scraped the ground as she was dragged toward the exit, her designer bag banging against her hip. People laughed openly now, phones recording every second. Her last desperate words echoed through the atrium. "I'll make sure you all regret this." But no one believed her anymore. She wasn't powerful. She was pitiful. And as the glass doors slammed behind her, the crowd cheered again. Louder, freer, victorious. The boy, Eli, got to stay. He got photos, autographs, even a tour backstage. Every parent in that line smiled wider than they had all day, pride swelling in their chests. A child had been mocked, but justice had flipped the script. Life isn't fair. Oh, Karen. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's beautifully fair. And the bitter ending. Hours later, when videos hit social media, Karen's face, twisted with rage, her voice shrieking at a child, went viral. By the next morning, she wasn't an unknown VIP. She was a meme, a cautionary tale. The woman who mocked a boy and got thrown out. Her reputation, shredded. Her pride, gone. And justice, served hot, with the whole world watching. And that's the story. Thank you for listening, and if you loved this dramatic takedown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Wild Homeowners Association and Karen stories. HOA Karen kicked a disabled cop? Seriously? And tried to steal his gun? Who does that? You'd think this kind of madness only happens in movies, but nope. It happened right here in our little suburban nightmare. And guess what? A martial artist bystander didn't just stand there. Nope. She took Karen down hard. But, man, the fallout was something else entirely. I still remember the way the sun sliced through the clouds that morning, sharp and bright, like it was spotlighting the chaos ready to unfold. My heart was pounding even before I saw them. The street was buzzing. Neighbors gathered with their phones out, whispering like it was some kind of scandalous reality show. And honestly, it was. Karen, the HOA president, Mrs. I Make the Rules herself, was standing face-to-face with Officer Mark Jensen. Yeah, the very same Mark who'd lost a leg in the line of duty a few years back. He was calm, but you could see that fire in his eyes, like a storm held back just for the right moment. But Karen? She looked like a caged animal, wild and dangerous. You can't park here, Karen snapped, her voice dripping with that fake authority she loved to flaunt. This is private property, and I'm telling you to move your car now. Mark sighed, his patience worn thin. Karen, I've told you a dozen times. I have a permit. This isn't some random spot, it's designated for disabled veterans like me. Oh, please. Your permit is probably forged. I'm sick of all the fraud around here. Karen spat back, stepping closer, her eyes narrowing like a hawk about to pounce. You think just because you wear a badge you can do whatever you want? Not in my HOA. The crowd murmured. Some gasped. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Forged? Fraud? Karen was seriously accusing a disabled cop of faking his permit? And right in front of everyone? I could barely breathe as I watched the tension escalate. Then, out of nowhere, Karen lunged, and before anyone could blink, she kicked Mark's good leg. His face twisted in shock and pain. The street erupted in shouts. "Are you crazy?" someone yelled. But Karen didn't stop. She reached for his holstered gun, the one he carried legally, of course, like she thought if she could snatch that, she could control the whole situation. But Mark's instincts kicked in. He grabbed her wrist, gripping it tight. "Let go," Karen hissed, struggling. That's when Sarah stepped in. Sarah, the quiet woman everyone knew as the neighborhood yoga teacher. But what no one expected was that she was also a trained martial artist. I swear, it was like watching a scene from an action movie. With a fluid motion, she intercepted Karen's hand, twisting it until Karen let out a sharp cry and stumbled back, clutching her wrist. "Enough, Karen," Sarah said, voice calm but steely. "You're done here." Karen glared, furious, but didn't dare challenge Sarah. The crowd was silent for a moment, absorbing what had just happened. Then the phones came out again, live video streaming, social media about to explode. But the real shocker came a week later. Karen, as if nothing had happened, tried to sue Mark. She filed a lawsuit claiming assault and defamation. The nerve! What made it worse was the paperwork, obviously forged affidavits from neighbors she'd coerced or threatened, trying to frame Mark as the aggressor. Fraud at its finest, right in front of the whole HOA. But Mark wasn't alone. Sarah testified with fierce clarity, detailing every moment. The judge wasn't having any of Karen's theatrics. The truth was laid bare: Karen's attempt to abuse power, to bully a disabled veteran, to steal his gun, and then twist the story with forged documents. The courtroom was electric when the verdict came down. Karen lost everything: her position, her credibility, even her HOA privileges. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Neighbors who once pretended to support her started coming forward with stories of her manipulations, her petty frauds, and her endless vendettas. And you want to hear the kicker? Karen tried to pull one last stunt, forging signatures to get back on the HOA board. But this time, Sarah caught her red-handed. The police were called, and Karen's house was raided for evidence of fraud and forgery related to HOA documents. It was like watching karma unfold in real time. I still get chills thinking about how quickly things spiraled. One moment, Karen was the untouchable queen of the neighborhood. The next, she was a disgraced fraudster exposed for everyone to see. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the faint echo of her yelling, the desperate cries as she tried to cling to power. But the silence afterward? That's the sweetest sound, because it means justice, real justice, finally caught up with her. And all it took was one brave disabled cop, one unexpected martial artist, and a community that refused to be fooled by lies and fraud. Funny how truth has a way of coming out, isn't it? But let me ask you this: what would you have done if you were standing there that day? Would you have stayed silent? Or would you stand up, just like Sarah did, and say, "No more"? After the court ruling, things changed fast. Karen's name became a cautionary tale whispered at block parties and HOA meetings. No longer the queen bee, she was now the disgraced villain. The woman who tried to use forged documents and fraud to bully a disabled cop and got caught. The neighborhood felt lighter, freer somehow, like a dark cloud had finally lifted. Mark, for his part, didn't seek revenge. He simply wanted respect for the sacrifices he made and the rights he earned. And that day on the street, when Karen lunged and kicked him, that was the last straw. She crossed a line that even the HOA's power-hungry dictator couldn't deny. But Sarah? Man, Sarah became a local hero overnight. Not just for her quick martial arts moves, but for standing up against Karen's lies and fraud in court. She showed us all that sometimes it takes more than courage. It takes action, knowledge, and refusing to let injustice slide. Still, the aftermath was messy. Karen didn't just vanish quietly. She filed an appeal, dragging everyone through more lawsuits and hearings. You'd think after all that fraud and forged evidence, she'd give up, right? Nope. She kept digging herself deeper, like a bad reality TV star desperate for attention. Her obsession with control became her downfall. One by one, neighbors who once feared her stepped forward with affidavits and testimonies. They revealed how she forged signatures to pass HOA rules that benefited her friends, how she threatened families to vote her way, and even how she falsified maintenance records to hide the poor condition of community property. The judge wasn't having any of it. The appeal was thrown out, and Karen was ordered to pay heavy fines not just for harassment but for fraud and attempted theft of a police officer's weapon. The media caught wind of it, and suddenly the whole city knew about the HOA president who lost her power because she tried to steal a disabled cop's gun. What a headline. But what hit me hardest was the silence from Karen afterward. No more rants. No more lawsuits. No more threats. Just an eerie quiet that settled over the neighborhood like a calm after a storm. Sometimes, I walk past her house and see the peeling paint and locked gates, a physical symbol of the collapse of her empire. It's wild to think how one person's greed and abuse of power can ripple out and ruin not just their own life, but the peace of an entire community. And it all started with that one day, that crazy, sunlit morning when Karen lost control and tried to kick down a hero she couldn't break. If there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's this: lies, forged documents, fraud, and bullying might feel like a shortcut to power, but karma's got a long memory. And sooner or later, justice catches up, usually with a lawsuit in tow. So next time you think about letting someone like Karen run the show, remember Mark and Sarah, and remember that standing up matters. Whether it's a kick, a testimony, or just speaking the truth, you can make a difference. Thanks for listening this wild story. If you want to hear more jaw-dropping true HOA dramas and see how justice unfolds, hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel because these lawsuits aren't just paperwork. They're real battles fought by real people.